The vampire. The immortal undead who survive numerous generations by sucking the blood of the living. Many of us have enjoyed and indulged ourselves in classic fictional stories of vampirism, which have become a staple in the genre of gothic horror. But how many of us know the truth about vampires in history? Where were the legends derived? And what were the historical narratives that made people truly believe in these ancient specters of the night? The answer lies in the historic vampire debate. In the mid-18th century, during the reign of the Holy Roman Empire, several official and imperial reports of vampirism began to spread throughout Europe. These reports first emerged from the Habsburg monarchy, near the borderlands of the Timfir-Banat and the Kingdom of Serbia. Then, they came to be printed in German newspapers. What is not quite known in our modern world is that the word vampire did not come into the English language until the year 1732, when news of such reports reached London. We have here the March issue of the Gentleman's Magazine of that year, where a strange narrative was printed in the Foreign Advices section, detailing the infamous case of Arnold Pale, and that certain dead bodies called vampires had killed several persons by sucking out all their blood. The report that this article mentioned is authentic, and is located in the Municipal and Provincial Archives of Vienna. After an announcement that the so-called vampires were said to have killed some persons by the sucking of blood in the Kingdom of Serbia, 3 surgeons came under a high decree from a local commander-in-chief to the Prince Alexandrian regiments to investigate the matter in the form of an inquest. Witnesses were interviewed, the suspicious graves were visited and exhumed, and the autopsies of 13 bodies were also thoroughly detailed in this report. The result of the case caused those bodies that were without the typical signs of decay to be decapitated, burned, and their ashes to be thrown into the Morava River. The narratives of death and the dissection of the bodies performed by these surgeons caused a great controversy in Europe when excerpts of these reports were released to the public. An ensign to the regiments of Prince Charles Alexander personally wrote a letter to a German doctor requesting an academic explanation of these events. Even King Frederick Wilhelm I of Prussia commissioned members of the Royal Prussian Society of Sciences to form an expert opinion on the nature of such strange phenomena. Widespread curiosity resulted in what is now known as the Great Vampire Debate. With a plethora of tracts and dissertations from esteemed academics, physicians, theologians, and even alchemists to determine the true nature of these mysterious phenomena and endeavor to examine similar reported cases throughout history. Now, for the first time, these historical dissertations can be read in English. This campaign will launch 4 volumes filled with works from this historic debate, translated for the first time into English, bound in leather, and gilded with gold foil. Each high-quality volume will provide the modern reader with a differing perspective on the multiple accounts of vampirism in history. With the success of this campaign, you will be able to possess an archive of arcana with facsimiles of historically authentic documents and leather-bound volumes filled with writings and correspondence by scholars who attempted to understand the strange phenomena associated with these events. Inserts will also help you trace the histories of where the origins of the vampire belief may have been derived. These documents will also come with historic maps detailing the regions depicted in these reports. See firsthand the distance that the imperial governor of Gradiska traveled to assess the exhumed body of an alleged vampire named Peter Plagojewicz in the village of Kisilova in 1725. These books are formatted in the same likeness as the originals, which brings out an ambiance of historic and gothic feeling with each page you turn. With the first volume, we have the perspective of a magister and deacon, Michael Romft, who over the course of 9 years expanded upon his historical and philosophical dissertations into a single volume entitled The Tractate on the Chewing and Smacking of the Dead in Graves. He sought to answer whether the reported phenomena were derived from a devilish magic, a divine miracle, or if the cause could be explained through some hidden faculty of nature not yet understood. The second volume contains a compilation of several alchemical and medical writings upon the reports of vampirism. These works are a historical dispute upon the application of alchemist philosophy to the question of vampires. These writings argue upon the principles of the famed Paracelsus, and philosophize upon the concept of the spirit world, the historical application of the humors or temperaments in medicine, and deduce the associated phenomenon to a doctrine of qualified poisons. The third volume is a compilation of several medical writings and correspondence upon the reports of vampirism. The bulk of the work was written by a physician who sought to solve the issue of vampirism through his experience in medicine. His writings heavily cite the famed Michael Alberti, who wrote extensively on early criminal forensics and imaginary diseases, and he heavily contributed to the application of medicine to criminal jurisprudence. The final volume was written after Princess Elizabeth Ernestine Antoinette learned of the news of vampires and implored a theologian named Johann Christoph Herrenberg to write a treatise upon the matter. This treatise was entitled Sensible and Christian Thoughts upon the Vampires or Bloodsucking Dead, which takes on early concepts of psychology, describing the intricacies of fantasy and imagination within the confines of fear and artistic expression. He even gave an elaborate description of mental disorders in perception and cognition. He also sought to understand the use of hallucinogenic plants in both criminal enterprise as well as religious rituals throughout history to obtain objective understandings of what might have occurred. He explores cases of vampirism dating back to the 1600s and thoroughly describes the beliefs and practices of witchcraft and the connections that can be made between them and the so-called world spirit. Now, you can become a scholar, to be among the first to hold, read, and study these historic writings for the first time in English, nearly 300 years later. Become a member of this arcane archive and own a special limited first edition volume of this historic vampire debate.